growth is headed in the right direction, inflation is coming under check, NPA cycle is weak, and fresh capital formation has started. Reserve Bank of India Governor and his team have made the impossible look easy. Indian financial system is now resilient despite all the shocks. But are problems of yesterday behind us, or will they haunt us? What about global external shocks and preparedness of Indian financial system? To get all these answers, I have with me the man of the moment, Mr. Shaktikanta Das, Governor of Reserve Bank of India. Governor, it's an honor and the channel's pleasure to have you on ET now.
Thank you.
Governor, I guess the introduction was the question in itself. Ever since you took over as the Governor of Reserve Bank of India, December 2018, is this the best macro and the economy setup we've seen?
Yeah, I think in a long time, not just in the last 5 years. Of course, the last 5 years we have seen several turbulent moments. Initially coming from the collapse of the ILFS, followed by the COVID and so many other external developments. So we have gone through a very turbulent period. But I think in quite a while, if you see over a period of time, over a period of years, I think the confluence of factors that we have today, it's perhaps one of the best. Look at the GDP. You mentioned about GDP. You look at the fiscal consolidation, which of course is on the fiscal side. You look at current account deficit. You look at inflation. And you look at the fact that inflation has been brought under some kind of a control without sacrificing, or without paying the kind of heavy price which perhaps some of the economies have paid to bring back, to keep inflation under control. So therefore, if you look overall, in terms of growth, in terms of inflation, in terms of other macro parameters like the current account deficit or the, economic activities, I think in all respects, and in terms of the overall stability of the financial sector, how can I miss that point? In terms of overall stability of the financial sector, the overall stability in the banking sector, the NBFC sector, I think it's perhaps one of the best confluence of factors. But having said that, this is a philosophy which we follow internally. There is no room for complacency at all, because a problem can suddenly arise from any corner of the world, and which may really, complicate the challenges for us. So absolutely no room for complacency, and we need to remain focused and remain committed to our goal of maintaining financial stability and supporting economic activity in the country.
But looking at the current set of data points and the macro circumstances, can I say that you don't see a problem which is on the horizon? If there is an external shock, something unknown which we are not privy to right now, that could be an episodic issue. But looking at the data points and the permutation and the combination, you don't have a problem on the horizon per se.
More or less you are right, excepting that geopolitical crisis, new flashpoints can originate any time. There are weather-related challenges, weather events which can happen and which do happen without much advance notice. Excepting that, at a structural level, I don't see any major problem. But as I made a reference in the last MPC statement of mine, I think global debt, it's not so much a problem in India, because I think our debt to GDP is at a certain level, and it is expected to moderate, about which I have talked about in the last MPC statement. And when I say our debt to GDP, I mean the country's debt vis-a-vis external lenders and the debt of the state and the central governments put together. These are all within manageable limits. They are set to moderate in the coming years. But if you look at global public debt in some of the advanced economies, I think, with their large fiscal deficits and with their large, percentage of borrowing, with their large percentage of debt to GDP ratios, and if this continues, it can pose, pose bigger challenges particularly to the emerging market economies. But that is not something which will affect India immediately. And also, I think among all emerging market economies, India is much, I am repeating the word much consciously, I think India is much better prepared to deal with such challenges.
Governor, the Reserve Bank of India was clearly ahead of the curve when they released their GDP projections for FY24. RBI number was 7. The consensus number was 6.3, 6.4.
That's right.
Post the last GDP trend, will RBI remain ahead of the curve and upgrade their FY25 GDP estimates also? Is there a case for it?
Well, I mean, the next monetary policy is just about a month away, and our research teams are working on the, on the inflation and on the GDP numbers. So I don't want to preempt what conclusions they will come up with. But as I look at, the outlook for growth, we said last year, if I recall, sometime in October, towards the end of October, I had said in one event that the GDP is expected to touch, and perhaps it will touch, it will be in the order of 7%. You are right, absolutely. The market was at 6.3, 6.5, and slowly the market adjusted to that. But today the number for the current year given out is 7.6%. And so now once the NSO gives a particular data, we work on that number. I mean, because that is the final authority which gives the GDP number. So far as, let me split it this way. First, let me talk of the current year, then the next year. So far as current year is concerned, the momentum of economic activity has been very good, has been robust. And we are now in the first week of March. Given the kind of momentum of economic activity, the growth momentum which we are witnessing, and the kind of high frequency indicators, the data points which we keep getting on a continuous basis, I would not hesitate to say that there is every possibility of the 7.6% growth for the current year being exceeded. Now, we have the numbers for the first 3 quarters. The implicit growth for the Q4, for the fourth quarter, that is current quarter, is 5.9%. Our sense and understanding of the high frequency indicators and the momentum of economic activity tells us that this 5.9% growth in the Q4 could be exceeded. And when that happens, obviously, the growth will be more than 7.6%. And I think there is quite a good chance of the growth, GDP number for the current year being very close to 8%. Now, coming to next year, we have given a growth projection of 7%. Other forecasters, including international agencies, have given much lower projections for next year. For next year, we stick to 7%. And, we are sticking to 7%. But I will wait for the next MPC, our research teams to do their analysis. But at the moment, as I speak to you, I would stick to 7%, which we have projected for next year.
But sir, if high frequency data points are so strong, then internal data purely is pointing towards a strong economic, expansion. Can I at least infer that?
There is definitely a strong economic expansion. You see, you take 2021, which was the COVID year, when we had a negative growth. Thereafter, the revised number which NSO has given out is 9.7% for 21-22. Then the next year, which was earlier 7.2, has been revised slightly downwards to 7%. And this year, NSO is giving 7.6%. So 9.7, 7 and 7.6. If you take the average, it's 8%.
Yes.
And the 7.6 can be closer to 8%. So therefore, the momentum is continuing to be very strong. And so therefore, we are quite optimistic about next year. And we are quite, and I say it with reasonable amount of confidence based on our internal analysis and research, that 7% next year is definitely very much on the table.
When the Reserve Bank of India makes a comment, he knows the data and he's gone through the data and he's sure, otherwise he will never indicate that on a public forum. Governor, last time when we spoke, the elephant in the room in a sense was inflation. Now inflation has come down. A lot of measures have been taken by RBI. Commodity prices have also been benign. Now that inflation is moving towards your guided band, which is below 5%, more towards 4%, is it time for Reserve Bank of India to change their stance?
Since you use the word, you use the analogy of elephant, I would like to tell you and to your viewers that as it looks, the elephant has gone for a walk.
Okay.
The elephant can come back anytime. And why I am saying the elephant can come back anytime, because there are a couple of major uncertainties which I mentioned. One is the geopolitical, how the geopolitical situation evolves, what kind of supply chain challenges it will pose. And second thing is the weather-related events which immediately impact our food prices. So these are the two major uncertainties. And the latest growth, the latest inflation print which we have for the month of January, that was released in the month of February, the inflation was 5.1%. We are still 110 basis points away from our target of 4%. We are completely focused. We are analyzing all the incoming data to see the outlook on inflation. But having said that, let me say that the trend, the direction of inflation, it is not just the month-on-month or the monthly numbers, it is also the direction on which the inflation numbers are evolving. Immediately after the Ukraine war, the inflation was 7.8%. That was in 22 April. From 7.8, it has come down to 5.1. In between it, it touched 4%. It touched below 5%. But it's now at 5.1%. So we are now focused on taking inflation to the target of 4%. And that is our focus. And given the uncertainties that we have, I mentioned weather-related events and all, we would like, inflation to be sort of, inflation to sort of durably be around 4%. It cannot be just one-off number or just 1 month number touching 4%, which will give us the satisfaction. It has to be sort of sustainably and durably at around 4%. That is something which will give us greater confidence. But the direction is very clear. Inflation is on a downward trajectory.
So if I have to use the cricket terminology with you, you always refer to cricket. Post-war, RBI had no option but to adopt a T20 format. They had to go for speed and power and impact. Are we back to the classic test match style now, where it is about form and not speed? It is about style and durability and sustenance?
So we play ball by ball. I mean, again, using a cricket analogy, we play ball by ball. And even in T20, for your, for information, if you see the pattern of T20, around the 10th to 13th, 14th over, usually there is a kind of a slight moderation in the pace, usually. Yes. But on a more serious note, yes, at that time, front-ended action was required, and we took the front-ended action, including an off-cycle meeting which we held of the MPC in May of 2022, where we announced a repo rate increase of 40 basis points. The market was taken by surprise, but I was surprised because if you read if you read the April 22 MPC statement, we had given clear indications that we will be moving very fast. But that is all history. So that was a time when front-ended action had to be taken. And now for several meetings, it's a pause, both in terms of stance and in terms of the rate increase on the rate front. So we are watching the numbers, incoming data points with regard to prices. We make our evaluation of the evolving outlook. Based on that, the future action will be decided.
Governor, what is RBI's view on the state of the economy? All kind of alphabets have been attributed to describe the post-COVID recovery. Is the post-COVID recovery really unreal? Is there stress on rural economy, and do you see that changing?
No, I think overall the economy is doing very well. I just mentioned last 3 years, the average, including current year, the average growth is 8%. Now you can't reach 8% growth, just like that. And even for the number which has now been given out, 7.6 for the current year, now various theories are being given around. I'm not dismissing the analysis which is being explained. For example, there is a belief that because the subsidy expenditure has come down, so GVA plus your GVA plus tax, gross tax collections minus subsidy, because the subsidies are less, so therefore the GDP number is looking high. I mean, various explanations are given. But I would again like to go back to what I mentioned about the momentum. The momentum of economic activity continues to be strong. And the demand for, in the rural sector, you mentioned about the rural sector. Now the demand for two-wheelers, which is an indicator for, rural demand. Two-wheeler demand is again back, it's recording high growth for last couple of months. Tractor demand is slower, but the point is tractor demand is little slower. It's not negative. It's the growth is little less compared to the previous months. But on the back of double-digit growth for several months, a slight moderation should not be seen as an indication of slowing rural demand. It's not so. So therefore, two-wheeler demand continues to be strong. Tractor demand is quite stable. And then the demand for Mahatma Gandhi Narega, that also has come down. Rabi, the Rabi sort of whatever gap was there in the net sown area, that has also been filled up, and Rabi crop is expected to be good. A wheat crop is expected to exceed last year, but then we have challenges with regard to few other crops like pulses, etc. So overall, rural demand is showing signs of revival, or perhaps, let me put it this way, that rural demand has definitely improved compared to what it was, let's say, 1 year ago. And so far as urban demand is concerned, urban demand continues to be very strong. Investment activity continues to be strong, driven by government capex, and private capex is also beginning to pick up, particularly in certain key sectors like steel, those sectors related to construction activity, textiles, chemicals. So private investment is also picking up. Capacity utilization is also very high, and this is not just reflective in RBI's survey, but also in the various industry associations and chambers of commerce. They do a survey among their members. Yesterday we had a detailed interaction with various industry and trade bodies and the apex associations at the All India associations. So their internal survey among their members is also showing that the capacity utilization is very high. And there is an expectation that private investment will also pick up. Demand for bank credit has also picked up. So if you put all these things together, I think the economy is doing definitely, the economy is doing very well. And compare ourselves among the other countries. We are living in a world, and it's always, you have to see it in a comparative sense. If today we are recording, let's say, around 7.6 or between 7.6 and 8% growth, please see where the other countries are. If other countries were doing 9 and 10% growth and we are still at 8 or little below 8, it's not good. But look at the other countries. So therefore, I think the economy is doing very well, and we are quite optimistic about the outlook, the growth outlook for India.
I'd like to draw your attention to liquidity. Given the growth parameters and the inflation and the growth dynamic, is the system now ready for liquidity injection? Because liquidity on a net basis in last 24 months is actually less. Is the system now ready to accept that back in?
You see, liquidity was in surplus till about September or so, September last year. Thereafter, it has turned into deficit, and there are various factors external to the Reserve Bank. That is external factors. External meaning, I don't mean foreign, but external to the RBI. For example, the currency in circulation, it plays an important role in deciding the quantum of, in impacting the quantum of liquidity. The currency in circulation, government expenditure, and the inflow of forex. When foreign exchange comes in, then obviously, you know, these are the factors which are extraneous to the, external to the RBI. So we have been, as I said as we pointed out in the last monetary policy statement, we have been quite nimble in our liquidity actions. We are almost simultaneously, during the last fortnight or 1 month, we are injecting liquidity by way of variable rate repo operations. We are also periodically taking out liquidity by way of variable rate reverse repo auction. So it is both VRR and VRRR. In fact, last few days or last few weeks, we have been doing more than one auction on the same day. So that is the kind of nimbleness which we have demonstrated to manage liquidity. But for the last 4 weeks or so, I think liquidity has been, liquidity has been in surplus, and that is reflective in the fact that the overnight call rates, call money rates, the overnight call rates, which were earlier hovering around 6.75 to even sometimes touching 6.8, they came down to about 6.6 or so, 6.6, 6.7, and yesterday, in fact, it was below 6.5. So therefore, liquidity has been sort of, there is sort of adequate amount of liquidity, there's good amount of liquidity in the system, it's not deficit, and that is clearly reflected in the overnight call rates.
Paytm, I would like to again establish for our viewers what a channel view has been, that Reserve Bank of India has acted in public interest to safeguard public interest when it comes to Paytm. The framework was compromised and Reserve Bank of India had no choice but to impose restrictions. Governor, that's 1 month old. After that, has Paytm taken corrective action? Have they earned the out-of-jail card? Could there be a review to that decision?
No, I don't want to comment on a specific entity. It will not be proper now for me to comment on a specific entity, because we have, there is correspondence going on between RBI and the regulated entity. In this case, it is the Paytm which you have mentioned. So specifics of where it stands, I would not like to mention. But since you mentioned Paytm, can I sort of slightly expand the scope of my reply and bring in a few things which I think perhaps, there will be interest among your viewers. First point I want to say is that the Reserve Bank's action is against a regulated entity. In this case, the regulated entity is a payment bank. The Reserve Bank's action is not against any fintech company. I fail to understand, I do not see any reason why a narrative is, building up or was built up as if Reserve Bank has taken some measures against fintech companies. We have not taken any action against any fintech companies. Fintech companies are not regulated by the Reserve Bank unless they are NBFC lenders. If they are NBFC lenders, yes, they are regulated by us. In this case, the action is against a payment bank. Now you may say that I am being defensive and all that. It's not being defensive at all. But I think I see this kind of narrative in certain sections of the media. But I think the financial sector players, they understand the situation very well. But for the understanding of the wider cross section of your viewers, so therefore we have done nothing so far as fintechs are concerned. Fintechs are free to grow. We are supporting fintech companies. We have set up an innovation hub. We have formed a fintech department. We have a regulatory sandbox. We are going towards forming a SRO, a self-regulatory organization for fintechs. So RBI is and remains fully supportive of fintechs. I'm saying this only to sort of give a message of, to sort of instill a sense of clarity in the minds of the people and on the fintech players. The RBI is all for fintech to grow. So far as RBI's regulated entities are concerned, fintechs provide a third-party service. So as a third-party service provider, so far as we are concerned, it is we fix the responsibility on the bank or the NBFC which is utilizing the services of fintech to follow the rules of the game. And so that is one point which I wanted to clarify. And financial sector, when you come to a regulated environment, Regulated environment is a regulated environment. There are regulations, there are rules of the game, and you have to follow the rules of the game. If you want to drive a new fashionable car on the road, you have to follow the traffic rules. You cannot say that, I am the owner of a new car and I don't, traffic rules don't apply to us. Traffic rules are for everybody. And why are traffic rules put in place? Because there are children crossing the road, there are elderly people using the road, there are two-wheelers on the road, there are cars of various speeds on the road. So therefore, it is the responsibility of the traffic police to ensure that there are no accidents. So Reserve Bank is similarly placed as a regulator which is entrusted with the responsibility of regulating large part of the financial sector. Our endeavor is to ensure, to the best of our ability, our endeavor is to ensure that there are no major accidents. Accidents can still happen, but our endeavor is to ensure that there are no major accidents. Therefore, we have now deepened our supervision to the extent that we are able to sort of anticipate problems and risk build-up. All our actions are determined with the objective of maintaining financial stability, protecting customers' interest, protecting depositors' interest, and wherever we see a risk building up, we have to necessarily take action in the overall public interest. So this is the overall background for all the regulatory actions which the Reserve Bank has taken, not only in the case of the Paytm, but in the case of a few other regulated entities. Whenever we take action, it is mainly, you have to see from where we are coming.
But just a point on public awareness.
Sorry for that very long answer.
No, sir. Thank you for clarification. Just a follow-up question for public awareness. Are you likely to extend the deadline of 15 March for Paytm wallet just because of the kind of accounts and the pure size it has?
You see, initially when we gave a time of about a month, 31st January we issued these orders, and we gave time up to end of February, which were 29th February. So we had made an assessment, and our understanding was that it will take about 30 days, for the whole thing to stabilize. Then we issued a FAQ, as I mentioned in the Monetary Policy Day. We issued an FAQ, I think sometime around 16th, in the middle of February. So therefore, we thought, since the FAQ is being issued in the middle of February, giving clarity on a number of issues, number of questions which we had received, so we thought it is again appropriate to give one more month of time. In our assessment, the time given up to 15th February is sufficient.
15th March.
Sorry, 15th March, I'm sorry. Up to 15th March is sufficient because, you see, if you take into account the total number of, users of the Paytm, you are referring to the Paytm payment, the wallet, the payment app.
Yes.
Now, each payment app or wallet is linked to a bank account. Every, payment app, whether you are, Paytm app or any other app, or the wallet is linked to a bank account. So far as Paytm is concerned, large part of their, large part of the users of the Paytm payment app, almost to the extent of about 80 to 85%, they are linked to other banks along with Paytm Bank or to entirely different banks. So therefore, about 80 to 85% of the customers who are using the Paytm payment app will not be impacted at all, because their app is also linked to another bank account of theirs. So therefore, their payments can go on in a non-disruptive manner. The challenge is with regard to those 15 or 20% of the users who have linkage only with a bank account in the Paytm payment bank. There we have advised the company, that is the Paytm payment bank has been advised to sort of shift these customers to other banks. Other banks are also proactively onboarding customers, and NPCI has also been sort of working closely with the various banks. So customers are now sort of who are exclusively dependent on payment bank, 15 to 20% of the customers, they are getting onboarded to other banks. So therefore, I don't foresee a problem beyond 15th March. And through your channel, I would like to, सबको मैं आप हिंदी में भी बोल देता हूँ, I would like to appeal to everybody, मैं सब users को ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि 15 मार्च से पहले आप दूसरे कोई बैंक में आपका जो Paytm ऐप है उसको लिंक कर लीजिए, If you have a payment app, Paytm payment app linked to only Paytm payment bank, please link it to another bank account of yours in some other bank, so that आपका जो Paytm payment bank है, Paytm payment app है, वो non-disruptively आप उसको use कर सकते हैं.
But when do you think NPCI will take a decision on Paytm license?
I can't say that. I mean, NPCI, I know the process. NPCI has to do its internal due diligence. So far as RBI is concerned, we have advised that we have informed them that we have no objection if NPCI considers, the Paytm payment app to continue, because our action was against the Paytm payment bank. The app is not, it's with the NPCI. So our action was against the payment bank. NPCI will take a call. I would presume they will take a call. I think they should be taking a call shortly.
Governor, to quote your last interview, you said that fintechs are like Ferrari. India needs still a efficient small car. So can I assume that now that SROs have been set up, RBI is essentially looking at extending the regulation in fintech? The soft touch era is over?
If I can digress a little bit, I think the Indian speed today is not like a small car.
Right.
India's economic growth and the way India is growing, I think it is the Tejas speed, the Tejas aircraft speed.
Right.
I think, we are experiencing. But coming back specifically to this question, you said that...
is the soft touch era over?
We don't want to slow down any economic growth. We don't want to slow down the growth of the financial sector. We are completely focused on the growth of a robust financial sector, the growth of the financial sector on a sustainable basis. You see, growth has to be sustainable in the long run. If you grow at a very high speed just for a few years, and then there is a crash, that's not on. As a regulator of the financial sector, it's our effort, it's our responsibility to ensure that the financial sector grows and grows, with a good speed, but in a sustainable manner. So therefore, in the recent years, we have deepened our supervisory processes and approaches, and we are now keeping a very close watch on activities of, not only sectoral, subsectoral activities, but also we are monitoring the activities of the individual banks or the individual NBFCs, the larger ones particularly, let's say the top 100 NBFCs, which control roughly about 80 to 90% of the NBFC space. So the monitoring, the supervision is now much more active. On the regulatory side, we have completely overhauled the regulatory architecture in the sense that for NBFCs, we have positioned a scale-based regulation. We have digital lending guidelines. We have issued ownership guidelines as well as governance guidelines for scheduled commercial banks. So therefore, we have brought in a lot of changes in the regulatory side to ensure that our financial sector remains strong and healthy. And on the supervision side also, we have deepened our supervision to the extent that we constantly monitor what's happening both through offline methods as well as, through off-site as well as on-site methods, including a lot of online information which we get to ensure that the Indian financial sector, again, as I mentioned, remains strong and healthy and grows in a sustainable manner.
But Governor, looking at AI, better compliance, can I say that compliance now will occupy center stage, and Reserve Bank of India in a sense could also revisit the total penalty which is there in the system, which currently is actually minuscule considering the global standards for non-compliance?
You see, three principles which we highlight, in fact you can call them the tripod of stability in any financial institution. The tripod of stability is management of risk, is ensuring good compliance, ensuring reasonable compliance, and the third aspect is taking the internal audit seriously, making the internal audit functions, very sort of making that efficient. And that is why, as a part of our governance reforms in banks and NBFCs, we have mandated creation of dedicated senior level positions of Chief Risk Officer to look after risk management, Chief Risk Officer, Chief Compliance Officer, and the Head of Internal Audit. All these three functions, we have spelled out what are the areas they should be looking at. We have, we have sort of mandated that there should be sufficiently senior officers having the required capability. So therefore, ultimately, compliance is an essential part of good governance. And, from the Reserve Bank, we are giving a lot of emphasis on these three things: risk management, compliance, and the findings of the internal audit, how they are being addressed.
Governor, there is a war of liability within banks right now, and banks in a sense are making a case that, look, we are not getting traditional savings because a lot of money is being channelized to stock markets. As RBI, what is your view? Are savings getting diverted into stock markets?
You see, I'll tell you, the whole position is slightly nuanced. If savings are going into stock markets, it's coming back to a bank. You see, when you buy a stock, let us say if I am buying some shares in the secondary market or I participate in an IPO, I make the payment, but where does that money go? It doesn't remain as loose cash. It goes back, it comes back to the banking system in somebody else's bank account. So therefore, yes, from the point of view of the banks, one set of deposits, one set of depositors, probably their deposit rates are coming down. In another category of deposit, the money is shifting from one account to the other account. But having said that, I think the broader point which you are making, and which I quite agree, is that the growth of deposits is in the order of about, the growth rate of deposits is in the order of about 12%. Whereas credit is growing at about 16 to 17%. So there is a kind of a mismatch. There will always be a mismatch because, it's not that you get 100 rupees by deposit and the same 100 alone will be given out as loan. And out of that 100, incidentally, the bank has to provide for CRR and SLR and other requirements. So, but when one loan gets sanctioned, money creates money, what is called the money multiplier. So therefore, while the credit growth cannot be sort of, you cannot have a you cannot say that credit cannot grow at a rate higher than the deposit growth. It will always grow at a rate higher than the deposit growth. But there has to be some correlation between credit growth and deposit growth. Now, the deposits growth are in the region of about 12 to 13%. And historically, I think the deposits have grown around 13-14%. So, yes, to some extent, I think there has been some dip in deposits, perhaps because, I think the propensity to spend more is now there. Consumption expenditure is, I think, picking up. But eventually that money comes back again to somebody else's bank account. So as economic growth takes greater foothold, I think one can expect the savings rate to improve. If retail savings are if retail savings are not growing, it's perhaps because of things like investment in mutual funds, investment in shares, or greater amount of spending, which is undertaken by the households.
But is RBI worried about the kind of options activity which are there in the system, loans against securities? Is that something which is a bit of a fly in the ointment? Is it a concern?
You see, loans against securities, we have, the RBI has given guidelines to banks and NBFCs also. Even with regard to NBFCs financing IPOs, 2 years ago we came out with some guidelines. Earlier the NBFCs could give any amount of loan, with regard to IPO financing. But we have set a limit. I think we have set a limit of 1 crore. 1 crore per borrower, we have set a limit. So therefore, that is one area where we are constantly monitoring. Like any other sector, these are all under our constant monitoring. And as and when some action is required, we will take them. But at the moment, it's sort of under our surveillance. I mean, that's it. I don't want to add.
What about real estate? In the past, Reserve Bank of India has flagged off concerns in the real estate sector. In the previous cycle, they have taken preemptive measures. Where do you see the real estate sector is headed? Are you worried?
You see, at the moment, I'm not unduly concerned about real estate sector as a whole. Construction activity continues to be strong, and the real estate number may look high because of the fact that the HDFC's assets got merged with the HDFC Bank. So both put together, if you compare year-on-year basis, the real estate sector growth looks high. But if you net out the HDFC component, then the growth of real estate sector is not something which worries us at this point of time.
Near-term question, Governor. Bond inclusion. India will be part of MSCI index. Bond inflows will pick up. How is Reserve Bank of India preparing the bond market for the inflows?
You see, bond market inclusion, I have said it earlier, it can act as a double-edged weapon. If there are inflows, there can be situations where there are outflows also, and that can cause volatility in the yields. But if you are alluding to expectation of heavy inflows, I would like to say that so far as JP Morgan bond index inclusion or yesterday's announcement by Bloomberg thing will come in any case at we are still about a year away from that. But these will come in over a period of time. They are not going to come at in one shot. They will come over a period of time, and that kind of inflow the Reserve Bank will be able to manage. Not only with regard to the inflows, but also should the cycle turn. I'm saying should. It's not a sort of, it's not a probability, but you cannot rule out such scenario. So Reserve Bank will be able to handle the kind of inflows or outflows that one can generally associate with bond inclusion, mainly because we have strong buffer of forex reserves.
I'll take the liberty of just asking a few questions. Shamelessly, I'm extending my appointment with you. It's a rare pleasure to have you, sir. Two large questions which will have real long-term structural implications, Governor. First is that the rupee trade, in a sense, Governor, is now is now becoming bigger. In fact, we understand that Indian refineries also now ready to get oil in part payment is going in Indian rupee. Do you see that change increasing, and do you see now the rupee denominated trade will only grow exponentially?
You see, rupee denominated trade, one has to understand why we are doing it. Now, dependence on one currency for international trade obviously is involves a bigger amount of risk. When your import and export, or when your global international trade is dependent on more than one currency, to that extent, the risk of exchange rate fluctuation in that single currency, it gets minimized. We have made a beginning with regard to rupee, that is the local currency settlement or the rupee denominated settlement. There are two different things. One is through the Vostro account mechanism, where the settlement is entirely through rupees. The other one is local currency denominated, meaning if there are two countries, the respective currencies can be utilized for settlement. So therefore, our effort is mainly in that kind of environment. It's in that kind of a context. Particularly, we are trying to build it up with countries with which we have a large trade volume. So therefore, we expect this to steadily improve. It cannot happen overnight. We expect it to steadily improve. Our officials have had meetings with the oil companies, oil marketing companies also. And the effort on both sides, whether it is we have signed the agreement with the India, UAE, you will very soon see action with a few other countries also of, India and the other country local currency denominated trade agreements being sort of taken forward. So we are working in that direction, and I expect it to grow. The rupee footprint should grow, especially vis-a-vis the countries with which we have a larger amount of trade, and where there are countries from which we have great amount of remittances also by Indians who are working there.
You've called cryptocurrency dangerous, and there's a time when the cryptocurrency was almost like a mania. Now that crypto and Bitcoin prices are coming higher, do you see the level of participation is still low, or level of participation off late after the price hike has also come back again in India?
I think the exuberance which was there earlier 2 years ago, that exuberance is not there. There is greater awareness among among the people about the risks and dangers associated with crypto. Some people will make money, but larger number of people are likely to incur loss because it's a speculative product. We have nothing against the technology. There has to be a clear line drawn between technology on which cryptocurrencies are based. Technology is the blockchain technology. We have nothing against it. Blockchain has got many applications. It's already under use. We are ourselves using the blockchain technology with regard to our central bank digital currency. So the underlying technology is a different, it's a different thing altogether that has to grow. We are ourselves using it in our central bank digital currency, the e-rupee. It is when that technology is used to develop certain products which are essentially speculative in nature and which are traded without any underlying and without any corresponding liability. Every asset has to have a matching, liability. Now, cryptocurrencies do not have whose liability it is, number one. Number two, there is no underlying. And it is a speculative product because without any underlying, some trading is going on. I sell you something for 1,000, you sell it to somebody for 2,000, somebody sells it to another person for 3,000. But what is the basis? So therefore, we call it a speculative product. And I think there is greater awareness among the people, not only in India, but internationally. And we have interaction with other central banks also very frequently. And there is greater awareness. Yes, today at the moment, as you said, some of these products are, they're sort of being traded at very high prices. And so there could be some amount of interest, which is perhaps more than what it was 1 year ago. But if you compare with where we were 2 years ago, when there was a kind of a exuberance building up, I think today there is a greater amount of realism.
Last but one question. When should we expect the full-fledged launch of the digital currency, retail digital currency?
You see, we are in no great hurry to launch the digital currency because we want to be absolutely sure about the safety and robustness and the integrity of the digital currency. So it's a pilot project which we are running, and even the pilot project size itself we have, is now very high. The number of users, retail users of CBDC today is about 4.3 million. That's about 43 lakh users of retail CBDC are there. And there are the number of merchants who are using CBDC are about 0.4 million, 40 lakhs. So totally 47 lakh, merchants and users are a part of this, the pilot project. We are learning from our experience. New challenges, new issues keep cropping up, both with regard to technology, with regard to sometimes certain safety, certain questions around the safety features, certain questions about the speed of transactions. So it's a kind of we are developing the product ourselves. And we want to ensure that when we are fully satisfied about the integrity and about the safety and all the safety features and the integrity of the currency, when we are absolutely confident, that perhaps will be the right time to launch it in a full-fledged manner. But we have no timeline or no target date. It all depends on when we feel that, yes, we are ready to launch it.
So there is no downtime in RBI. But is there a downtime in RBI governor's life? Do you ever get a Sunday?
Well, I think it's a part of the job, and I can't complain. I mean, if you have accepted a position, you have to also accept the challenges which are associated with it.
And I'm sure when you get a chance to watch TV, you prefer watching ET now?
Sorry?
When you get a chance to watch TV, you prefer watching ET Now on TV?
Yeah, of course. You want me to endorse ET Now? I will not endorse it, but yes, I do watch ET Now, and that's why I am here.
Governor, if a pantheon of great thinkers and great governors has to be made, your name will always be then on the pedestal. It's a very proud moment for us when there is a global acknowledgement as to kind of things which under your leadership RBI has an institution adopted. But sir, you come, unlike your peers, not from traditional economics background. Yet we are living in a complex world. How do you simplify things? How do you start? How do you judge? What data points do you refer to?
You see, one has to first and foremost, one has to look at the big picture. You have to see the larger world. You have to first see the big picture. And then you have to zero in into the micro details and you have to do a kind of a granular analysis. So as long as your as long as your eyes are like
Arjuna's eye.
I mean, one cannot emulate the great warrior Arjuna, but as long as you see the larger picture, as long as you are focused on the larger picture. What is the larger picture for RBI? The larger picture is to ensure financial stability in the country and to support growth, and also of late things like supporting innovation, supporting technology, making payments user friendly, and financial inclusion, all those things. So one has to really look at the larger picture. Look at the larger picture, and then I think zero in on various components of it and decide your action accordingly.
Brilliantly, sir. You've just given us the framework, and we have a lot of 18 Swadesh audience also. तो थोड़ा हिंदी में उनसे अगर मैं सवाल पूछूं गवर्नर, तो सबसे पहले सब जानना चाहते हैं हिंदी ऑडियंस की भाई ब्याज दर कम कब होगी? होम लोन, कार लोन, पर्सनल लोन, महंगाई की मार पड़ रही है. सब कहते हैं रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया के हाथ में चाबी है.
नहीं, देखिए, महंगाई तो बहुत कम हुआ है. महंगाई बिल्कुल नहीं है, मैं ये नहीं कहना चाहता हूं. महंगाई लेकिन बहुत कम हुआ है. एक टाइम यूक्रेन वॉर के बाद में था जबकि हमारा इन्फ्लेशन 7.8% टच कर रहा था. आज के तारीख में जो लास्ट नंबर आया है वो 5.1% है, और जो डायरेक्शन है वो कम होता जा रहा है. तो हम अभी धीरे धीरे 4% के और बढ़ रहे हैं, और हमारा एक्सपेक्टेशन ये है कि 4% हम पहुंच जाएंगे अगले शायद कुछ महीने में. और हमने जो प्रोजेक्शन दिया है अगले साल के लिए, अगले साल के बीच में हम 4% टच कर रहे हैं, लेकिन फिर ये इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ने का चांस है. और हमारा अभी जो कोशिश है, अभी ये हमारा प्रयत्न है कि ये हमारा कोशिश है कि इन्फ्लेशन मतलब 4% पे पहुंच जाए और उसी के आसपास रहे, और ये हमारा टारगेट है. तो उसके मद्देनजर हम इंटरेस्ट रेट डिसाइड करते हैं इन्फ्लेशन के हिसाब से, और इंटरेस्ट रेट जो है वो डिपॉजिटर के लिए है, वो बोरोअर के लिए भी है. डिपॉजिटर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू में अगर इन्फ्लेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, बहुत अधिक है, और आप इंटरेस्ट रेट कम कर रहे हैं, तो डिपॉजिटर के लिए वो नेगेटिव इंटरेस्ट रेट बन जाता है. लेकिन हमेशा बोरोअर्स चाहते हैं कि मतलब इंटरेस्ट रेट कम हो, वो बोरो करें, और जो बिजनेस कर रहा है उनके बिजनेस और अच्छा चले. जो प्राइवेट इंडिविजुअल है वो ये चाहते हैं कि भाई कम इंटरेस्ट रेट में मैं हाउसिंग लोन लूँ या कार लोन लूँ. तो ये जो है एक बैलेंस्ड कॉल हम लेते हैं, और ये पूरा डिपेंड करता है आपका जो इन्फ्लेशन नंबर के ऊपर. आज के तारीख में कुछ अनसर्टेनिटीज है, जैसे कि वेदर रिलेटेड इवेंट, कभी मान लीजिए बाढ़ आ गई, या कभी मान लीजिए अनसीजनल बारिश बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया है, और कभी जैसे कि 2 साल पहले हुआ था जब गेहूं का मतलब वो हार्वेस्टिंग पहुंच रहे थे, एक्सट्रीम हीट, समर सीजन जो है तापमान बहुत बढ़ गया था, इसीलिए व्हीट क्रॉप डैमेज हो गया था और इन्फ्लेशन फिर बढ़ गया था. तो इसीलिए फूड इन्फ्लेशन में आज के तारीख में हमको कुछ अनसर्टेनिटी दिख रहे हैं. अभी हम 5% के आसपास है, हम 4% के पास पहुंचने का हम ये एफर्ट इज टू, मतलब हमारा कोशिश ये है कि 4% पे कितना जल्द हो सके वहां पे पहुंच जाए. और अगर 4% के आसपास हम पहुंच गए और उधर ये टिक के रहता है, तो उस टाइम पे अगर आप ये सवाल मेरे को पूछेंगे, शायद मैं और डेफिनेटिवली इसका रिप्लाई दे सकता हूं. लेकिन आज के तारीख में बस मैं 2 सेंटेंस कहना चाहता हूं. एक कि इंटरेस्ट जो मतलब इन्फ्लेशन जो है वो कम होता जा रहा है और एक्सपेक्टेशन यही है कि ये कम होगा, 4% पे पहुंचेगा और फिर उसके बाद हमको देखना पड़ेगा कि वहां टिक के रहता है या वो फिर बढ़ने लगता है। ये है फर्स्ट पॉइंट। सेकेंड पॉइंट है, जब हम वहां पहुंच जाएंगे फिर मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि हम तब T20 खेलेंगे या वनडे खेलेंगे या टेस्ट मैच खेलेंगे।
तो वहां कब तक पहुंचेंगे?
अब देखते हैं, हमने अगले साल के लिए प्रोजेक्शन दिए हैं, मिडिल ऑफ नेक्स्ट ईयर 4% टच करके फिर लेकिन उसके बाद बढ़ रहा है, 4.7% बढ़ रहा है। तो ये जो है देखिए, हम आउटलुक बेसिस पे डिसाइड करते हैं। मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी जो है वो फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग है, एक साल के बाद, 6 महीने 8 महीने के बाद क्या होने वाला है उसके जो असेसमेंट जो उसका करते हैं उसके बेसिस पर हम डिसीजन लेते हैं। तो अभी हमको वेट करना पड़ेगा और देखना पड़ेगा कि हम 4% जब टच करते हैं वहां टिक के रहते हैं या फिर 4.7 हो पहुंच जाते हैं या फिर बढ़ने लगता है। तो आगे जाके इसके बारे में और डेफिनेटिव रिप्लाई देने के लिए मैं सक्षम होगा, लेकिन आज के तारीख में इंटरेस्ट रेट कब कम होगा ये मैं कहने के पोजीशन में नहीं हूं, और कहना भी गलत है क्योंकि आप एक अनरियलिस्टिक एक्सपेक्टेशन बिल्डअप करेंगे, जैसे कि मैंने और भी कहीं कहा था। आज का क्या हो रहा है कि देखिए, मार्केट जो है, इवन आप एडवांस्ड इकोनॉमीज को भी ले लीजिए, मार्केट और जो बाकी प्लेयर्स है मार्केट में, सेंट्रल बैंक कह रही है कि भाई इंटरेस्ट रेट अभी कम हुआ, अभी टाइम है, लेकिन मार्केट सोच रही है, बाहर के देश के बारे में मैं कह रहा हूं, भारत के बारे में नहीं, मार्केट लेकिन ये उम्मीद रखता है कि नहीं अगले 3 महीने में इंटरेस्ट रेट कम कर देंगे। तो इंडिया में हमने इसीलिए इंटरेस्ट रेट के बारे में कोई फॉरवर्ड गाइडेंस नहीं देते हैं क्योंकि मार्केट गलत दिशा में ट्रैवल ना करे। हमारा जो नैरेटिव है, मार्केट का जो एक्सपेक्टेशन है इंडिया में, वो दोनों बिल्कुल कन्वर्ज कर रही है। तो हम कोई गलत स्टेटमेंट देके या कोई ओवर ऑप्टिमिस्टिक स्टेटमेंट देके इंटरेस्ट रेट के बारे में कुछ भी अगर कहे, फिर क्या होगा, इसका मार्केट में एक अननेसेसरीली एक एक्सपेक्टेशन बढ़ जाता है और वो फिर मार्केट फोर्सेस को बहुत अफेक्ट करता है। और इसीलिए मैं कोई फॉरवर्ड गाइडेंस इस बारे में देना नहीं चाहता हूं। हम जो इनकमिंग डेटा है उसको मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं, उसके आधार पर हम 6 महीने के बाद, 8 महीने के बाद, 1 साल के बाद इन्फ्लेशन का क्या स्थिति होगा वो असेस करेंगे और फिर उसके आधार पर हम निर्णय लेंगे।
गवर्नर साहब, जब आरबीआई बोलता है कि इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम स्ट्रांग है तो पूरे देश को कॉन्फिडेंस आता है, इसलिए आता है बिकॉज आरबीआई हैज एक्सेस टू डेटा, उनके पास पैटर्न्स हैं। तो क्या आप एक कॉन्फिडेंटली बोल सकते हैं कि ग्रोथ का जो मोमेंटम है, बारिंग सम एक्सटर्नल शॉक्स, अगले 2-3 साल मजबूत रहेगा? वो 7 होता है, 8 होता है, 9 होता है, वही डिबेट है, मगर क्या ग्रोथ मोमेंटम अच्छा रहेगा? एंड इंडियंस दे शुड इन्वेस्ट, दे शुड स्टे बुलिश बिकॉज ग्रोथ इज रियल एंड ग्रोथ इज हियर टू स्टे।
देखिए, ग्रोथ हमारे इंडिया का जो ग्रोथ है वो सस्टेनेबल है। अभी वो उस लेवल पे पहुंच गया है जहां की ये सस्टेनेबल रहेगा और एक्सटर्नल चैलेंजेस कोई भी हो वो इंडिया मतलब उसको वी विल बी एबल टू डील विथ इट। जितने भी चैलेंजेस आएंगे उसके साथ हम उसको जरूर डील कर पाएंगे। और इंडिया का जो ग्रोथ आउटलुक है उसके बारे में हम बहुत ऑप्टिमिस्टिक हैं।
गवर्नर साहब, हिंदी ऑडियंस के लिए आखिरी 2 सवाल जो कि एक मास ऑडियंस से कनेक्ट करते हैं। हम जब लेंडर्स की रिकवरी की बात करते हैं तो कई बार आर्म ट्विस्टिंग होती है, भाई आप लोन नहीं दे पा रहे हैं मगर जो लेनदार है वो आर्म ट्विस्टिंग करता है। रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने इसमें काम कर रहा है, क्या और कुछ करने वाले हैं वो?
ये हमने डिटेल गाइडलाइन इशू किया हुआ है कि जो अनएथिकल मेथड से, जो मतलब स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्म टैक्टिक्स है, उसके खिलाफ हमने गाइडलाइंस, बिल्कुल साफ साफ गाइडलाइंस इशू किया है और इसको हम मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं। जब भी कोई कंप्लेंट्स आते हैं उसमें हम बहुत सख्त से सख्त कदम ले रहे हैं। अगर किसी बैंक हो या किसी एनबीएफसी हो, अगर हम देख रहे हैं कि वो मतलब बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्म टैक्टिक यूज कर रहे हैं और जो मतलब अनफेयर मेथड से उसके मतलब उस अनफेयर मेथड्स उस तरीके से वो लोन रिकवर करना चाहते हैं, उसके खिलाफ हम एक्शन लेते हैं। और किसी भी कस्टमर को मतलब आप रूल्स के बाहर जाके हरेस करने के लिए मतलब रिजर्व बैंक जो है उसको हम टॉलरेट नहीं करते हैं।
आखिरी सवाल, और आई प्रॉमिस दिस माय लास्ट क्वेश्चन, एक मस्ट हैव क्वेश्चन है डिजिटल पेमेंट फ्रॉड्स को लेकर के। काफी बड़ा इश्यू अब होने लगा है, स्पेशली फ्रॉड्स जो हो रहे हैं, क्या उसके लिए आरबीआई कर रहा है?
इसे डिजिटल फ्रॉड्स ओवरऑल अगर आप देखेंगे तो कम हुआ है। आप अगर 1 साल 2 साल पहले की अगर आप चिंता करेंगे तो 1 साल पहले जितने न्यूज आते थे न्यूज़पेपर वगैरह में, आजकल उतना नहीं है। तो कॉन्स्टेंटली हम पब्लिक अवेयरनेस क्रिएट कर रहे हैं और जितने एजेंसीज इन्वॉल्व है इस बारे में, चाहे वो आरबीआई हो या फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्रीज, भारत सरकार में फाइनेंस मिनिस्ट्री हो या होम मिनिस्ट्री हो या जो स्टेट पुलिस और जो सेंट्रल एजेंसीज हैं, हम जॉइंटली मीटिंग करते हैं, हमारे ऑफिसर्स जॉइंटली मीटिंग करते हैं और इसमें और कैसे क्या क्या स्टेप्स लेना जरूरी है उसके ऊपर वो तो कंटिन्यूअसली वो वर्क जारी है। लेकिन टेक्नोलॉजी जो है बहुत जोर से इस दिशा में काफी टेक्नोलॉजी, और जो फ्रॉडस्टर्स वो तो हमेशा उनका कोशिश रहता है कि लॉ एनफोर्समेंट के 2 कदम आगे रहे। लेकिन उस तरफ बहुत इंटेंसिवली हम नजर दे रहे हैं। सिर्फ आरबीआई नहीं, सिर्फ भारत सरकार के मिनिस्ट्रीज उसमें इन्वॉल्व है, जो इन्वेस्टिगेटिव एजेंसीज है और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के जो पुलिस है, वो सब मिलके हम इसके ऊपर और भी क्या क्या कदम ले सकते हैं उसके ऊपर ध्यान दे रहे हैं। लेकिन ओवरऑल डिजिटल फ्रॉड्स और जो कंप्लेंट्स आप ओवरऑल अगर देखेंगे तो वो कम हुआ है और हमारा एफर्ट यही रहेगा, कोशिश यही रहेगा कि इसको और भी कैसा कम किया जाए।
Governor, before I wrap, on behalf of everyone, a sincere gratitude for your time. Thank you for patiently answering all our questions. You and your team have made the impossible look very easy. India is growing, economy is headed in the right direction, and thank you for ensuring that Indian financial system is stable and we've only emerged stronger with every financial crisis. We are truly grateful to you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and may I just say that it has been our effort. You see, RBI enjoys a lot of credibility in the eyes of the public, and constantly internally I drive home the point, and it is the effort of the team RBI to sort of focus on improving and enhancing the trust and confidence of the public on RBI as an institution which stands for financial stability.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.